Okay, so it's just gonna go live. Come on. Oh, yep, it says starting. We are going live apparently.
Broadcasting Willow the cat to the internet.
Oh,
Willow, you're on TV.
yeah. Okay, I can see myself infinite amounts of times now. Okay, let's full screen that. Okay, so we can see Willow the cat. Hmm.
Oh,
Do you have another to prevent me having to alt tab and just like keep showing everyone my screen? Do you think you could just check it on the stream and make sure it's working?
oh, sure.
Yeah.
I guess I could just like
'Cause, I mean,
go
like
find
I
the
can
channel.
probably like edit some of this out afterwards, like if you're happy for that. But for now, it's just easier to keep it this way. So
Yeah, I see it. It says live now.
awesome. Can you hear anything?
There's you saying check in on the stream to make sure it's working.
Okay.
That's what you said right when I opened it.
Yeah. And do our voices, do they sound like roughly balanced?
Oh, let me keep listening. Yeah, they sound pretty balanced to me.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully I fixed that issue then. Okay, so let's get into it, I guess. So
Okay, let me. Okay.
So, to all the confused people who may or may not be checking in, today we are doing a special live broadcast of Track Talk. Today, here we have Rabid Squirrel,
Hello.
who you probably remember from, influential tracks like "This Will Destroy You." But for the purposes of this episode of Track Talk, we'll be focusing on Rabid's most recent track, "Ruby Falls." So, I think one of the first things I want to ask is what is the history of this track? Because I saw in the credits it says what, like 2.5 year history.
It's actually kind of longer than that. So the 2.5 years starts from when the first line of the track that was in the final product was drawn, roughly. And then, so it was about 2.5 years from that point until the release. But I first attempted to start the track in 2010. So it is a very long history, most of which it was just sitting on a shelf being like, someday I'll do that.
Yeah.
I tried to make it, I guess this would be, I don't know, was LCC before your time?
The
I think
Line
it was.
Rider
So
collaboration channel, is
it
that?
was, well, it was called the Line Rider Community
Oh,
Collaboration, but
yeah.
it was, what it actually was sort of like an elite group of like what we would consider, what we would have considered at the time to be like top track makers.
MLGs.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was just like, anyone who was like seen as really good by the community was like in the LCC, and then we make collabs and stuff. And so I tried to get people in that group interested, and no one was interested in making it. And then I ran a clan, well, co-ran, revived, and whatever. I was basically running a clan called Miracle Blood Factory, which I don't know what the name is about, but the it was like we did manuals and scenery, and I tried to get them interested in doing Ruby Falls as a collab. And that was in like 2010 and then 2011 respectively, and then it just got shelved for like 4 years.
Yeah.
For like, it was like maybe one day eventually, and then in late 2014 there was that, I'm not sure if this was before your time or not, but we did the or I like hosted that Line Rider community marathon, and it was like 18 hours where we just watched a whole bunch of old Line Rider videos,
Oh my
and
god.
it brought like a whole bunch of activity because people were like, because we did it over Christmas break, and so it was well timed, so like no one had anything to do, and then people were like, anyway, I'm getting off topic. But during that thing, Opal Ryder was one of the co-hosts, and he was like, hey, we should collab. And I was like, I'll think about it. And then afterward he messaged me, he was like, hey, do you want to collab? And I was like, what if we did this project? So that was like January 2015, where it was conceived as like it was going to be a collab between me and Opal. I mean, I can keep going. Long story short, it became a collab between me and like a few other people, but mostly me.
Fair enough, yeah.
And yeah, like a lot of it was done in like early 2016, and then it was like shelved for a long time at like maybe 30% done, and then early this year, January through March 2018, was when like the latter 2/3 of the track got made.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like quite a time-intensive track. A lot of the manuals you got going on there. So, what would?
Well, I can comment on that.
Oh yeah.
It was actually really funny because let me make sure I get this right. Yeah, the first section I made, it's between, it's like from the drop at the opening to up until like OTDE's part before the guitar solo. That part was like maybe a 50-second part, and it took a while to make. But then that was in like early LRA, and there was all sorts of like bugs.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Mostly related to like I was using the scrubbing. I was like scrubbing with the playback bar a lot, and it kept doing like non-deterministic behavior, which was rough. So that took a while, mostly because of that. But then once I got back, by the time I started with the guitar solo, and then I did through the end of the track, and that whole thing only took, I logged hours. Let me make sure I get this right. Like 50, 60 hours to make the whole ladder, like 5 minutes. And it's mostly because LRGS has these really nice tools where you can select a line, and then you can like nudge an endpoint.
Yeah.
Like I can be like, and so I can just like nudge it until Bosch goes off sled, and then nudge it back one, and then that's like, and then I can just click on one, and I can select a line and then change the type, and I can do that to balance manuals with red lines.
Okay, so for anyone wondering, that the difference between that and LRA would be, on LRA you can kind of just manually drag it, but you're saying with LRJS you can literally just like keep pressing something and it'll move it like incrementally.
I can select a line, and then I can use hotkeys to move the line around. I can use keyboard controls to move the line around or change the the nature of the line. So I can change it from a red line to a blue line. I can reverse the acceleration. I can even multi-line it with the keyboard. So that was really helpful and made the last 5 minutes just go really quickly. I mean, the guitar solo still took a while because going frame by frame, but yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, that's probably one of the most intense parts of the track, or the most memorable, where they have that crazy, with the perforated lines. But yeah, I need to get back to the.
I can talk about that though.
Yeah,
I can talk about all these things. Let me know if you ever want like a shorter answer.
But honestly,
or
like
a longer answer.
The one I did with Arglin the other day was well over an hour, so like there isn't really a time limit. Just go for it.
Okay. Well, the guitar solo thing was actually, it was like an expansion on an idea that I put into a track in like 2013. The track, it was actually with the Miracle Blood Factory clan that I mentioned earlier. It was
I think I might have seen it. Yeah.
And so I did like a very short part right at the end where I was just like, what if I make a nose manual but then shorten the lines so that they're like there's space in between them, and it made this really cool effect. And then I was like, ooh, what if I like rotate the lines and like keep the nose manual going, but then like Bosch is just being slowed down by the lines.
Yeah.
So anyway, and so then Ruby Falls was like sort of taking that to the next level and using a lot of multi-lining.
to
get the effects that we wanted, that I wanted. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely got the impression that yeah, that perforated line thing is I think probably mostly due to that track has started to become a bit of a thing in Line Rider. I've seen Gavin Rue started using that a bit. I started using it.
Yeah, yeah.
I used it in the middle, I think. Yeah, I used it in the middle for
It's
a guitar.
interesting
Yeah,
because some of the things I've seen are like a little bit different, and it's cool to see how people's different takes. Because like I was doing like every frame
hmm.
in that track, and then I think Andrew Hess did every other frame with a really cool
Yeah,
thing, which was cool because it worked at a slower speed.
yeah,
And then I saw, I mean, you did. It looked like it was every other frame, except it was just like it was a lot faster.
yeah.
Um, and the every other frame it wasn't like the lines were small. It was like the lines were the normal size lines, and then you just erased every other one.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, what I found out, because it's pretty time intensive to make those, as I found out. So what I essentially did was with the LRA camera system, you can just basically hold it down and keep going, and it will just like kind of make a gradual curve upwards. So I did that, and it takes like like maybe 5 minutes or something, and you just go back and delete all the lines.
Oh, because of the way the LRI camera works.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
I
guess
happened
that
to
makes
find a
sense.
little exploit there, or I maybe wouldn't have done it. It takes quite a long time to make those. But
Well, actually, I mean, what you were doing there seems more similar to me to something that I was doing in part 2 of This Will Destroy You,
yeah,
which is a little bit of a different idea because it's like, but that's basically exactly what I was doing. Is it's a slow curve. At the time, I didn't have the nudge tools, so I was just
mm,
drawing the line, and then like I would extend the previous line and lock the angle, and then
yeah,
look at the difference, and then
uh,
like undo the extension and then like change it a little bit and then extend it just
God,
because I wanted to get that really nice smooth curve. And then I just erased. Well, I don't remember exactly what I did, but yeah, I think it was like, yeah, the lines were like 4 frames long. Well, 3 to 5 frames long, and then I would erase every other one.
hmm, yeah, fair
And
enough.
because it wasn't a really sharp curve, then Bosch um, didn't fall off the sled.
Yeah, that's definitely the name of the game there. So, getting back to a question I wanted to ask earlier, what would you say inspired this track?
I mean, the big thing was the song. Um, and it was the song. I mean, the song just meant a lot to me for a long time. And like I said, I had this idea since 2010 is the first. I mean, I didn't write it down when I had the idea, but 2010 is the first lines I drew to try to make it. I first I bought the song in 2009, according to when the file was created on my computer.
Yeah,
um, so I mean, mostly the song. The song, it's a song, it's I guess so. Yeah, it's a song that meant a lot to me for a long time, but it's also a song that is very um, evocative visually to me, like a sort of kinetic synesthesia, where I sort of see or feel movement when I listen to some piece of music, and that one just it's so dynamic, and there's so many different just like totally different moods that it goes through over the course of the song. Um, Also, like back when I first had the idea, um, I really like the idea of having a line writer track that was really intense, but then had this like really long, extended, um, like soothing coda,
yeah,
which was like not a thing, especially in like 2010, 2011,
yeah,
where people were, Muse and drum and bass and such and such.
yeah. I mean, that last section, like you definitely get that sensation. It's almost like he's just relaxing after doing something super intense. As you say, and then you get these kind of sort of suave, matches to the music where it gets kind of jazzy, and he's just, like it looks like you're just like playing, or he's playing on the lines, or you're playing with him, that kind of thing. So, what would you say the
So, I
fee?
mean, that was what motivated me from the start. If you want, I can talk more about
Oh
like
yeah,
things that motivated or inspired me later on when I was actually making it.
Sure, go dive in.
um, so I mean, I actually listed some of these in the credits, but around that, I think it was around 2010, 2011, people were starting to kind of play around with manuals. And I remember there was a whole controversy because Giorgio JC put like a really long green line that just connected like a 2 or 3 gravity wells, and Bosch kind of like spun to the left and the right of the line, and it kind of looked like a manual. And then like people watched the replay and they're like, "What? It was green!" And like some people were like, "That's cheating" or whatever. So
Yeah,
so
I
like
do
it
that
was also
extensively.
yeah. Well, now it's like totally accepted as a
Okay, yeah.
thing. Like this was years and years ago. Um, but yeah, so it was inspired by some of that stuff. Um, at least early on, that was some of the ideas where I was like, "Oh, I want Bosch to be sort of in dialogue with the line." I think this is another question you're planning on asking later,
Yes,
but
I want to know about that. Yeah.
but one of my favorite examples of that, so we can get into this later, was Tapeworm by Devray, which I don't know if you've seen that one, but
Possibly not.
it's mostly just one continuous line, and Bosch kind of like goes on all sorts of like interacts with the line in all sorts of different ways. Bosch will be on the top of the line, underneath the line, to the left and to the right.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes Bosch is on the outside of a curve. Sometimes Bosch is on the inside of the curve. Sometimes Bosch flips back and forth continuously, and sometimes Bosch like stays on one side for a while.
Okay.
So it was just really creative track.
Yeah.
And so I was inspired by some of that movement as well. And then like a few other things. Ryder did a really cool thing in Preacher where Bosch like sort of hops off the line and sails through the air and then lands back on the line, but the line continues underneath. So I used that a lot in Ruby Falls. And then just there was like there were a number of tracks that I was inspired by that sort of a lot of people saw multi-lining, like stacking acceleration lines, as cheating, or as like not, or as like people thought it looked glitchy or whatever. But there were some people that were doing things that I was like, "Oh, like that movement looks really cool." So I don't know, inspired by that.
Yeah, that's a whole other debate in Line
Um,
Rider, I guess. Seeing as,
I mean, these are all very old things that are like
yeah,
totally irrelevant
it's
now.
like,
Like
yeah,
everyone
everyone,
stacks acceleration lines now, and everyone does like
yeah,
green
glitch-based
lines.
work is like the norm.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of weird because people didn't think of gravity wells as looking glitchy, but they thought multi-lining looked glitchy. I don't know. It was.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, now we have singularities and 10-point cannons and all kinds of wizardry. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the next question I wanted to ask was what was like the theme or the intention of the track? Like you mentioned certain feelings that the song gave you. Is that something you were trying to express or deliver to the audience?
Um. Yeah, I feel like with this track and with This Will Destroy You and with other tracks, I think it's like I like see things in my head when I listen to the music.
Yeah.
And I like being able to convey that to other people. And it's kind of like visualizing the music in a way that makes people be able to like experience the music more viscerally than they would just listening to it. It's also like sometimes it's a way of like getting people to sit through and pay close attention to music that they might not necessarily.
Yeah, that's true actually.
um, like, and so I mean, sometimes I think about it as like music fan art. Sometimes I think about it as music visualization. Sometimes I just think about it as like music videos.
Yeah, well, I was gonna
Um,
say, definitely more entertaining than any music video will ever be.
I I think that depends on who you are. I think that most of the people watching this would agree. I think
Yeah,
that maybe people who aren't super into line writer might not agree with that, but yeah.
Depends what you want. Like, if you might just take like a generic rap song and you know what the generic rap song music video is, would you rather have, all that, or would you rather have a line writer track?
It's definitely not, line writer tracks to songs are definitely not ubiquitous in
Yeah.
culture. So
We definitely be a minority there, I guess. So,
what was the question again?
yeah, we got off topic. Yeah, so the theme or the intention of the track, like what were you trying to convey?
So I think with Ruby Falls in particular, it's partly just wanting to like respond to the song and to sort of uh just to visualize the things that I was seeing while listening to the song. Um and also to like get people to listen to the song and um to listen closely to the song. Um yeah. That, I guess that was the intention. The theme, I guess, is like fantasy on manuals. I don't know. I'm not sure what a theme could be interpreted in a lot of different ways in this context.
Fair enough.
Um,
So it's mostly just driven by the music. In this case, like you love the song, like it means a lot to you. You want to share it with other people, and in this case, through Line Writer, would you say?
yeah, and then I mean, and it was also, um, yeah. I guess primarily it's a song. And then on another level, I feel like everything I make is sort of like in dialogue with the other line writer tracks that are made and have been made.
Yeah.
um,
So there's that word again, dialogue. So in the comment section of that Ruby Falls video, there's a point where you
mhm.
reply to someone and you saying how you wanted to make it seem like Bosch was in dialogue with the line. So could you expand upon that? What exactly did you mean?
um, so this is like in, I want to just contextualize it and like go a few years back to when I was initially thinking about um line writer and the music and making tracks that were um not like atypical in some way, because I was doing mostly scenery back then. But I was kind of tired of seeing tracks as like um uh a lot of tracks in a lot of the time kind of felt like uh a stringing together of a bunch of different tricks. And even when there was like music syncing, even people thinking about music thinking syncing, it was like they were lining the tricks up with the music. And I feel like I don't want to rag on this track too much because it was made before music syncing tools existed. But Jam, I think, is like the perfect example, if you go back and watch it, of like it's like a whole bunch of tricks and the tricks line up with the music really precisely,
Yeah.
but it's not really visualizing the music.
Okay. Yeah. So
um
go ahead.
and so I think that's where the idea of Bosch being in dialogue with the line comes from, is like thinking about it not as like Bosch is doing a manual and now Bosch is doing an integration and now Bosch is doing this kind of a manual and now Bosch is doing this other trick. It's like instead of viewing it that way, it would be like Bosch is moving around the line in this way that matches the music.
Yeah, like more like interpreting. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Does that make sense?
yeah. I can see that for sure. I mean, I would say in some of my tracks, I kind of go somewhere in between that. Like sometimes it can. I guess it depends what your view is when you watch it.
Yeah.
Like I would go back to the middle again. There are times there where like it can look like it's just a bunch of tricks, but like maybe to me, I feel
Mhm.
like the trick or technique it like fits that moment of the music. Maybe I could have done it another way, but there's no. I guess that's all up to the interpretation of the person making it, and
Yeah.
that leads on to the next question, which would be why all manual for this track? Is that just something that you felt really fit with the music, or
Yeah. I while I was making the track, I joke with some people, with some friends about how I should. There's a it's a very old, uh, obscure meme within the line router community, but Abysmal P made a track called Halcyon, and the description for the track was manual track. I made this one because I thought, oh shoot, I made this one because I thought manual tracks could be more than what people were giving them credit for. I think that's right. I might be misquoting. And like I think at least 2 or 3 people released manual tracks later on with that exact same description. Um, and so I like debated, like, not seriously, but I joked about releasing Ruby Falls and the description would be that. Just because I like, I guess that was like the original conception of the track, was like manuals are such a great tool to have in your toolbox for visualizing music. And there's so many more things you can do that are kind of like fantasy on manuals, like the guitar solo, like the green line integration. The integration I did, so integration that people do sometimes is just like you have 2 lines and Bosch runs on one side of the other, and then one side of one, and then the other side of the other, and then you just connect it with green.
yeah,
And then in Ruby Falls, and I actually first did this in Daisies, but I did it in Daisies after I did it in Ruby Falls, but before, like years before Ruby Falls was released. So it's a weird thing. But if you like follow the contact point of the manual with the green line, then it creates this really cool effect where it looks like Bosch is kind of still in manual, but
yeah,
like on a green line. It works really well with tail manuals. Nose manuals are still good, but no, there's 2 contact points, so it can look a little funky.
yeah,
Yeah, but with tail manuals, it looks like super cool if you just follow the tail contact point. So that's one thing, and then the other thing, of course, is the guitar solo, and then also, of course, all of the other things in the track. And then I guess, yeah, and that's the trumpet solo at the end is another good example of like. But yeah, I think
yeah. The trumpet at the very end is slightly different because there you're like kind of pinching him to go with the
oh, at the very end,
yeah, the
I was
very
thinking
very
about the whole thing.
okay,
The
yeah,
whole thing is kind of like fantasy on manuals, because Bosch is definitely not always in a manual.
yeah. Like that's
But it kind of
go
feels that sort of off balance feel. That's something I wanted to talk about. Definitely is manuals feel sort of precarious, and Bosch can very easily go from a manual into a roll.
yeah,
It's very easy to spin Bosch around on a line while Bosch is in manual, and so that's something that I think. Whereas if Bosch is in flat sled, it's very difficult to be like, okay, now spin. Whereas if Bosch is
yeah,
in a manual, it's very easy to be like, all right, like spin 3 times, or spin this way and then go back this way and then hold this position. So that's, I think, why I mostly avoided flat sled. Though there's definitely plenty of flat sled in the track, but it's like 90% manuals, I think.
yeah. Pretty much.
And then sometimes it's like, is this a manual? It depends on your definition.
Yeah, that can get pretty loose.
And then I guess the third thing would be, I feel like for I mean, the casual viewer, but also everyone, if you're watching a track and it's all flat sled and then like suddenly we're doing manuals, it can feel like super weird.
Yeah, I
But then
guess.
also the reverse is true as well. If you're watching track where Bosch is in manuals all the time and then suddenly we're doing flat sled, it can
Yeah,
also look super weird. And I actually thought about going into flat sled for the sort of the soothing coda, and I just tried it, and it just really clunky.
is that the
So
is that the part where he's in like the tail manual for like ages? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Because that bit I
um,
watched him was like, huh, I wonder why you did tail there. Because I
I
actually wondered,
tried
yeah,
I tried flat sled and it just looked really really pedestrian, and just like Bosch was just just
flopping, yeah,
just and I was like I wanted to feel I don't know I wanted to feel like balanced and smooth,
yeah,
and I think the tail manual does that really well because it's a single contact point. You
yeah.
just get Bosch to balance, and tail manual just feels like very serene. Even
Okay,
like a
yeah,
nose manual, it's two, so Bosch can be like on edge this way or on edge this way or like wobble around a bit, whereas
yeah,
a tail manual like has to be like perfectly smooth.
yeah.
Um,
I think it worked better than a nose for the other reason is just like, like even if we are to say like like a kid on their bike or something like kicking a wheelie or whatever just to like relax and have fun, like most of the time they're not going to be like doing that in nose to relax, like staring at the ground,
yeah,
like
yeah,
like just from that angle it
that too, yeah.
can be odd. um well, I think
Yeah, it
we've
is nice that those two things work together. That riding on the back wheel works with the smoothness.
yeah.
But yeah,
um I
not that
think,
Bosch has wheels, but
well, it does in those weird other Flash versions.
right, line flyer.
Yeah.
The first version I played.
Oh god.
I played it for like a week before I sent it to a friend, and he was like, you should play the actual version," and sent me a link to linerider.com.
Oh
That was in
god.
2007. That was
Yeah.
a very long time ago.
Yeah, I can't even remember the first time. I think actually no, the first time I found Line Rider, someone showed me Jagged Peak Adventure, and then I was just like hooked on the game, just playing it in my lunch breaks, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the last question for track talk is the same one I normally ask. So if looking back on the track, is there anything you would change?
So this is something that I have thought a lot about for a lot of different tracks, because obviously I've released a lot of tracks over the years. Um, and a lot of tracks that were like really important to me, and a lot of tracks that a lot of people had a lot of things to say about. um, and so, I mean, I think it's a tricky question to answer, because the question is like, is there something you would change if you could? And I've basically, I guess I've sort of decided that that's not like a useful question to ask myself. Um, so if it's like in the situation where I could like go in and tweak something without changing the rest of the track, um, it's like I try not to think about that just because I can't.
Drive you nuts? Yeah,
And like it's just not good to like dwell on imagining that I could fix like one moment if I couldn't fix it, since I can't fix it. I feel like if I could, I would have like a totally different conception of Line Rider in general. Um, of like I would like have a totally different framework for how I look at it. Um, if I were to make the whole track over from the beginning, like let's say somehow every trace of the track was deleted and I wanted to restart it entirely from the beginning. First of all, that would suck. But
yeah,
secondly, I would probably do things differently, but I'm honestly not entirely sure it would be better. Sometimes there's like a roughness that comes from like trying something out that's not super refined, and then like looking at it and being like, should I keep this or should I like redo it? And some like I feel like whenever I start a new section or try out a new thing in a line rider piece, it's like I'll like do it, and then sometimes I'll be like, nope, I hate it, and then erase it and redo it. Sometimes I'll be like, it's perfect, it's
mm,
better than I could have ever imagined. We're
yeah,
just going with that. And then other times I'll be like, I'm not sure. And that's when I'll be like, all right, I'm done for the day. I'm going to go sleep. And then I look at it again the next day and I go,
yeah,
do I like it or do I want to get rid of it? But I do like generally, or I should say, not I like, but I try to avoid perfectionism as much as possible. Um, just because I feel like I and probably other people in the line ride community can get really caught up in perfectionism sometimes, and it can be kind of debilitating in terms of just getting your art out there. Um like yeah, like let me see. I've sunk a lot of time into things that turned out to not matter. I've also made things that I thought were pretty half-assed, and then I get like compliments on them from random people being
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I love that thing," and I'm like, okay."
Yeah, I know
So it's
exactly what
sometimes,
you mean.
yeah. So sometimes I just feel like it's best to just get it out there. But then also I try not to make things that I hate because it nothing's worse than like making something and being like, oh, it's good enough, and then trying to keep going and then getting like a ways
Yeah,
farther and then being like, oh, now I really hate that section.
yeah. Well, nothing's worse than having something that you made half-assed that then becomes really popular and then you hate it, but you're not sure if you
Yeah.
should delete it or not. Like I'm in that situation at the
Yeah.
moment.
Oh yeah, the what was that? The Turkish
Turkish,
march?
yeah, Turkish march. It has. I did.
Well,
God, I
I
don't.
should tell you,
Yeah.
I went through that for the first time in 2007 with Father's Day Line Rider.
Oh yeah, I've seen
That
that.
was a
Yeah.
track I made in 2.5 days. Um, which like at a during a time when I was spending like months on other tracks. Um, and yeah, that is like one of the most half-assed things I've ever made. But it's called Father's Day Line Rider, and it's like cute for people who don't understand, like don't know much line rider, and so it just got a lot of clicks.
Yeah.
I think it still has like 150,000 views, which and it was my most viewed track for 10 years.
Yeah. I've got a bit of a
So
hill to
like
climb. Like
so
this.
I know how you
Yeah.
feel. I know how you feel.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna.
And
I kind of want to delete it, but I also like the traffic it brings to like the rest of my videos. So it's just like, eh.
yeah. I mean, I guess the way I tried to make peace with it was just oh, I lost my train of thought. I had a thought and then I lost it. Um yeah, I got it back. What I try to think to myself to make peace with it is that like a click is not um that like the number of eyeballs you get to watch the first second of your video is not a measure of what it means to other people.
Yeah.
You know, um where on the other hand, like when someone leaves a comment like describing their life story, then that it probably meant more to them than if someone
Yeah, for
like
sure.
just that probably means more than like 1,000 people clicking and watching a video and being like, oh, that was cute, and then moving on with their life.
Yeah, it's like that's something like
So
that. Maybe like general advice to people out there. Like numbers are only numbers. I mean, if you make something and
yeah.
like you're really proud of it and like it blows up, then great. I mean, like just like this will destroy you did. But
Well, it took 10 years before it happened, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you get there. But I mean,
I made line rider tracks for 10 years after Father's Day Line Rider, and it took that long before I made something that got more popular than Father's Day. But during that time, I learned a lot and, um, gained a lot of experience with a lot of different things. So,
yeah, yeah. I think we're starting to get more general now. So I think we're going to go ahead and end this episode of Track Talk and stick around. We'll
what was
resume
the question? Oh,
the
yeah. Is there anything
question.
you would
Yeah,
change about
yeah,
the track?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I had. I had somewhere I was going and then I got lost.
Yeah, you were kind of saying how like you try not to think that way. I mean, I guess in a way I can see why it
Yeah.
drives you nuts if you try and get too pedantic with things.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that was something I was gonna say. I guess that's more about This Will Destroy You. Um. Whatever. I'll finish this and then we'll go to the next. Which is there were parts of different tracks I've released. So I guess This Will Destroy You mostly is the one that comes to mind, which is where I made things like really fast because I was making a really, really long track, and I was like,
Yeah.
I can't like. I have to make sure I don't dwell on the little things.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And then like there were people, so I feel like it's like, I don't know, it's not like super refined. I don't know. I when I watch it, I'm like, this isn't like super refined. But I've had people comment on it saying, "Is this a music visual? Like, is this an algorithm generating the track?"
Oh, really?
And I'm like, I didn't think it was that. Like, I'm just surprised, and so I'm like realizing that all the little things that I'm seeing are things that like nobody else is seeing, or almost nobody.
Yeah, or they just
So
don't view it in the same way as you do. Like, like minor imperfections to us, or that may be visible to us, or maybe a few, other track makers. Like to the general public, they don't see it, they don't know that it means anything. So
yeah,
everything
there
looks
there
fine.
is one part in Ruby Falls. Actually, you know what? I want to find exactly where it is. Maybe not, but there's one specific line in Ruby Falls that every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I wish I could just delete that one thing. It was like there's like I have tumbles with the drums, right? And
Yeah.
there's one part. Yeah, okay, I am just gonna pull it up.
Yeah, if you share application window directly, then it will specifically
Yeah,
show
why don't
that.
I do that? I just wanna share the one. Here we go.
Yeah.
It's right. Not here. Oh yeah, it's right. It's right here. Turn this down so it's not. It's right there. That line,
There you
right
go,
there.
folks.
Um, this one right here, because it was like the guitar comes in there, and so I
Mm.
started making guitar line, and then I was like, there were drums right away, so I just switched immediately to the drums.
Yeah.
And but now I look at it and I'm like, why did I think that there was gonna be like 3 frames of guitar?
Yeah, it's
Like
like
I should have just gone with the drums, but
it's like when you get like
so
two
yeah, there
frame by
is.
frame.
So I try not to think about it, but yeah, there are definitely things where I'm like, I wish I could just like erase that. But I also recognize that like it matters. Like I'll put this back. It matters like not at all. Like nobody has ever noticed that but me. I'm the only person who's like, I wish I could change that one thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, so yeah, I think we're going to wrap up this live episode of Track Talk here. Stay tuned. We will be back with Behind the Lines in just a few minutes. And yeah, thanks for watching, and thanks for being a guest, Rabid.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, see you next time.